Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today I've got a guest on the channel with me. His name is Monsta. Go ahead and
Hey,
pipe
what's
up.
going on, everybody?
We just wanted to come at you today with a quick well, maybe not quick discussion about the five Kage and ranking themselves amongst each other. Now, real quick, I want to get this out of the way. We're just going to be doing this the fun way, not necessarily the most logical way. And now we both agree that if we want to rank them in the most power scaling logical way that would be more consistent with how I introduced myself in my first video, it pretty much goes counting down from strongest to weakest. uh, Onoki the Tsuchikage,
Yeah.
A the Raikage, Tsunade the Hokage, Gara the Kazekage, and Mei the Mizukage. Now, I'm not going to get into too much depth here with that. Maybe someday, if y'all want further explanation, I can actually do a solo video on that. But today, we're not here to do that. We're here to just have some fun with it and introduce a surprise sixth competitor in there too. And we're also going to be discussing Danzo. So, last little thing I need to introduce right now is that these characters, we're going to be looking at them around the time of the Five Kage Summit, although, of course, Tsunade was in a coma, so we're going to make her actually able to fight. We're going to look at them in respect of how they would do in fights against the other Hokage, not who has the greatest battlefield strength, which is why we're not using that ranking I just laid out. And other than that, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Well, to start, of course, you have to give homage to Anoki. So, I mean, he's my number one. Then I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Donzo, which is a very spicy take, I know.
That's pretty spicy, yeah.
But
We're going to be
I'll
talking
get
about
more
that for
into
a
it
while.
later. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that for a while, I can tell.
Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say the Raikage, of course, A. Then I think we're going to go ahead and do Gara, Tsunade, then Mei.
Interesting. Okay. So I think I'm going to reverse your order here, and I'm going to go up from weakest. And now, unfortunately, I've got Mei at the bottom still. Now, look, I think Mei is actually kind of a monster. Not like a total monster, but like she's stronger than most ninjas in the show, right?
Well,
She's a Kage.
Yeah, I mean, you take into consideration her Keke Genkai, like, it makes her an
Well,
absolute...
she's got two Keke
Yeah.
Genkai, which is something a lot of people overlook. Now, the problem is her Keke Genkai are two of like the weirdest ones in the show because they're not like boost powers like the Sharingan or the Byakugan are, and they're not like some instant win button like a lot of the other like nature release Keke Genkai are. Hers are ones that like kill people slowly and hold them in place. But if you look at her, she was actually going to kill Sasuke at the Five Kage Summit. Granted, Sasuke was a little weakened at the time. He was almost out of chakra and all that. I get it. But he did even pull up his Susanoo for a while and heard, what's it called? That acid release was melting through it. He was going to die until Zetsu stepped in and stole Mei's chakra and gave Sasuke more.
Yeah,
Like,
basically...
he was going to die.
Yeah, basically just transferred the chakra that Mei had back into Sasuke. And, like, don't get us wrong, we know we both put Mei at the bottom, but she is an absolute unit based on her abilities.
Yeah, no, for like the two of you people out there who are fans of Mei, we understand that she's not weak. She's just not going to win in a fight against any of the other Kage. And that's what we're here to discuss today. So you had who's after Mei? Gara, right?
No, after
For you?
Mei, I had Tsunade.
Tsunade is after Mei. Well, I have to disagree with you a bit there. And now I've got the Raikage next after Mei. And now look, I also like the Raikage. But he's just not going to win in a fight against the other Kages if they're fighting really smart. And there's a reason for that. And now you have my inverse. You've got Tsunade, then the Raikage.
Yes, I think based off, because normally when you hear about Tsunade, granted, you don't really see a lot of her feats until you get into the Great Ninja War that she's a part of. But a lot of it was just like rumors and stories that everybody heard at that time. And most generally, all you ever saw was her ability with Katsuyu, a little bit of her 100 healing, and then her just abnormally monstrous strength. So I can't really put her above based off of that in the time frame that we're putting them at.
I mean, look, that's fair. But if we're looking at it from the 5 Kage Summit, sure, she doesn't have a lot of feats. But any feats she does have before the 5 Kage Summit are actually pretty crazy. I mean, she like literally goes fucking toe to toe with Monda in 3-way deadlock, and she is not even fully over her fear of blood at that moment yet, I think. Maybe she is. I haven't watched it in a while.
She ended her blood of fear when Naruto...
Right, no, that's when she starts kicking the crap out of Orochimaru. But, like, she'd still been, like, shaking and gotten her crap rocked by Kabuto, right? Mm-hmm. And she fucking picks up Gamabunta's gigantic sword that's, like, probably 20 times taller than she is, which must weigh an absolute ton. And she just throws it in the air and jumps up and kicks it down into Monda's skull. Like, that's pretty crazy. And then the 100 healings, like, prevents her from dying like 2 or 3 times in that fight alone. So just from that one fight, from like her first outing, you know she's insane. And then she fights against Pain, and granted she gets annihilated by him. Mm-hmm. But she also heals the entire Leaf Village through Katsuyu, and Katsuyu is using Tsunade's chakra to do it, not her own. So like, you know, any showing Tsunade has are pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just, to me, I think that's more like showing her ability as like a support aspect. Because, yeah, like she has the monstrous strength. She did pick up that sword, everything like that. But at the same time, a lot of the main focus during that fight was also upon Jiraiya. Mm-hmm. And she was mainly supporting Jiraiya and kind of like setting up.
Well, it was like her character arc too, though. That was like the arc that introduced her, and they were going to find her because she was going to be the next Hokage instead of Jiraiya. So like, I don't know. Now, on the Raikage side of things, we don't have, like, any feats for him before the 5 Kage Summit because this is the arc where he's introduced.
I mean, the only feat that you could really say, which is looking ahead, was the fact that this man just, anytime that B would go rampant, he'd just straight up go and box the 8 tails.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know that... you saw that they fought B, Sasuke and the rest of Taka fought B before, and you hear some whisper sometime or other about how the Raikage is the one that holds the 8 tails in check. Now, the thing about the Raikage, though, is that he does get feats in the arc he's introduced, which is the 5 Kage Summit, and his feats are also kind of bananas, because he goes against Sasuke Uchiha, a guy with a Mangekyo Sharingan, and now up to this point, the only other Mangekyo Sharingans we've seen are Kakashi's, who, granted, he's not even really used to using his, but his is still a broken ability because if you get hit by it, you just die, right? And then there's Itachi, someone whose Mangekyo Sharingan abilities are so broken that if you get hit by them, you die. Unless you're Sasuke, who there's still debate about whether he even actually broke out about Tsukiyomi or not. I still hear people talk about whether Sasuke actually broke out of Tsukiyomi, but we also know for a fact, and people have been talking about this a lot lately, that Itachi was holding back like crazy in that fight. And so you've got these guys who are like absolute monsters using Mangekyo Sharingan. And here's Sasuke, who at the moment of the show, you know, is probably not quite as strong as Itachi. You don't know how much weaker he is. But you realize he's got to be pretty friggin' strong because he killed Orochimaru and he just now thinks that he's getting as strong as he was before he absorbed Orochimaru again with the Mangekyo Sharingan. So it's like he's at least equal to Curse Mark.
Well, I mean, and you also have to take into consideration on that aspect with, like, the feats and how strong he is. Granted, Itachi was holding back, but at the same time, like, he did manage to take out Itachi and then awaken that, and then immediately after that, like, didn't even want the eyes or nothing, just immediately after that, and he found out through Obito that, basically what happened to his brother. He's just like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna go fuck up the Kage.
Right.
And just left.
And now, like, he's awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, and he's, like, constantly getting stronger because hatred makes Uchiha stronger, and so he's just, like, constantly getting angrier and angrier. And, like, even Karin speaks to this in his fights at the 5 Kage Summit, where, like, oh man, his chakra's, like, the nastiest I've ever seen it before, which I've heard people say means that his chakra itself is stronger. I don't think that means anything. I think it just means Sasuke's angrier, and so he is getting stronger because of it.
See, I think it's like the aspect like you. He's angrier, so he's getting stronger because of it. And I think Karin's remark was more anticipating Sasuke's bloodlust, and it's showing through his chakra.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because even when he was studying underneath Orochimaru, he would use the back end of his sword in their training sessions and everything like that. He didn't want to kill without there being need to. And in that whole arc, he's just literally slaughtering everybody that comes at him.
Right. So, getting back on topic then, we've got the Raikage who fights this guy, and, like, they nearly kill each other. It's, Sasuke was gonna at least tie with him because the Amaterasu would have killed the Raikage for sure. But, like, we know for a fact Sasuke is, like, incredibly strong, and here's the Raikage fighting against this guy and the other members of his team, and we also know that he's not going full force at first, and he, like, breaks Sasuke's neck almost. Sasuke puts up the Susanoo, and the Raikage just karate chops through the ribs, and, like, granted, he sacrifices an arm to do this, but, like, Sasuke's, like, coughing up blood from getting hit twice. And a couple of the hits he absorbs with the Susanoo.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's crazy. And so now we're putting Tsunade and the Raikage against each other. And it's like, how is this fight going to go? Because they're both really strong. They both hit incredibly hard. One of them's really fast, and the other one's really durable. We've never really seen the Raikage take very many punches, to be fair, so we don't know how durable he is, but we can assume he's probably fairly durable because of, like, the lightning armor and stuff, right?
Well, that, and if he's boxing a tailed beast...
Right, like
he's gotta be able to take
He's gotta be pretty durable. But then on the other hand, you've got Tsunade, who I don't think we've mentioned yet. The elephant in the room here is that she's one of the legendary Sannin. I mean, not only is she Kage level, but the Sannin, like Orochimaru in part 1, goes and kills Hiruzen single-handedly. And Hiruzen is stated in part 1 to be the strongest of the 5 Kage at the time, which includes everybody but Mei. Mm-hmm. Right? People have said that before. This is nothing new. Now, that could have been retcon, of course. But if it's still true in Shippuden, it means that Orochimaru should be stronger than any of the current 5 Kage. And of course, Mei is not stronger than Yagura, who was before her at the time.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's absolutely no way. So, if Orochimaru is stronger than any of the 5 Kage at the time, and the 3 Sannin are supposed to be at least roughly equal to each other, that means that all 3 of the Sannin should be high Kage tier fighters, right? Mm-hmm. So it's fair to assume that Tsunade would be more than a match for the Raikage. Like, this should be a damn good fight. And now I'm going to claim that Tsunade wins, and Monsta's going to claim that the Raikage wins, but both of us understand it could go either way.
Yeah, straight up. It's also based on
you at home, don't get your panties in a twist, because we're just having fun here today. Yeah. This isn't a super serious video. We just wanted to talk about some stuff and hopefully entertain you guys.
Well, that, and also for everyone at home, like he said, we're just having some fun with it, and the power scaling of the Kage in and of themselves is a lot closer than most people would think.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, too. I think overall in Naruto, the power scaling actually is a lot narrower than it's shown to be, but, like, Kishimoto's just kind of bad at representing that, and so it seems like there's these massive gaps in power when it should be a lot closer. So now I'm going to present my argument going into Tsunade versus the Raikage, and hopefully we can move on after yours. But basically what I think it comes down to is that the Raikage, if he's angry, he's going to fight harder, right? But he's probably not angry at Tsunade, so he's going to go in, like, version 1 Lightning Cloak. And even then, he's faster than she is, I'm sure. She probably is not going to have the speed advantage here. But she should be at least relative, because she can fight alongside him when they're fighting Madara. And we know for a fact he's going all out there. And the Great Ninja War, for instance, is, like, only a couple weeks or, like, a month after the 5 Kage Summit. You know, they don't get much time, so they can't be that much stronger than the 5 Kage Summit. And Tsunade was in a coma at this time. So, like, if we use feats from the War Arc occasionally, they shouldn't be wildly different from what the Kage can do here. That's all I'm saying with that. So they should be relative, at least in speed, because they can fight alongside each other in the war, and none of them is getting, like, super outpaced by the Raikage, who is their fastest member, for sure. So if she can at least react to what's going on to him, what I see happening is he lands a few cheeky blows like he did, like chopping Sasuke's neck at the summit. Well, that's not going to work on Tsunade, because she just can't die. Right? She gets impaled by objects all the time. She gets smacked around. It doesn't matter what you do to this woman. She does not die. You literally cut her in half, and she does not die. She just lays there chilling for a little bit, looking a little older than she was before. And so the Raikage is going to come up to her. He's going to smack her around a little bit, realize that nothing's working. And if he uses an attack like he used against Jugo, he's going to try and impale her, which granted will do some damage, but that makes it even easier for her to do what I'm going to say next, which is regardless of the situation, she probably manages to catch a hold of the Raikage And then once he can't escape her because she's stronger than he is, she just beats him to death. And it's going to be the nastiest beating anybody's ever seen. Like, when the Cloud Ninja came and beat Naruto up because he wouldn't tell them where Sasuke was, like, it's going to look like that, but on the nastiest, bloodiest steroids anybody's ever seen. Now, look, once again, close fight, but I think I got to give it to Tsunade. Monsta, why do you give it to the Raikage?
I give it to the Raikage simply just because, one, you look at the fact of, like, Sarutobi was stronger than the 5 Kage, and Sanin is relatively... Orochimaru did kill Sarutobi in a weakened state, mind you, because even Orochimaru said that if he was younger, he would have lost that fight completely.
But Orochimaru was holding back too.
Yeah, but also everyone always fails to realize when you're power scaling the Sanin, Orochimaru is technically speaking the strongest out of the 3. I mean, this dude went toe-to-toe with no arms up against both Sanin and Kabuto. Like, granted, Kabuto has some amazing feats, but I don't see him, like, squaring off against a 100% fresh Tsunade and a 100% fresh Jiraiya.
Oh yeah, no, there's no way. Kabuto shouldn't win those fights.
Yeah, like, but Orochimaru was just like, okay, I'm dealing with both of you now. I can't use my arms. I'm just gonna summon Monda and I'm gonna kick you.
Mm-hmm.
And even Kabuto was like, if Monda finds out that Orochimaru can't use the jutsu, so I can't really power skill Tsunade up with that because I honestly think she's the weakest member of the Sanin.
You know, that I want to interject real quick here and say that the Sanin themselves, how you rank them, is also really subjective and really dicey. So I'll give it to you for now, and maybe someday we can also discuss that topic because that's really complicated in itself.
So I think that when it comes down to it, I think she's the weakest out of the Sanin. So her going up against the Raikage, it's going to be a really, really close fight, but I have to give it to the Raikage 9 chances out of 10, just because I feel like he has a more variant style. Tsunade's main thing is just summon Katsuyu, I'm going to heal everyone around me, or 100 healings, and I'm just going to punch you. Mm-hmm. But you have Raikage, who's got, like, Lariat, Liger Bomb, the one weird name where he just points his finger.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, for example, though, like, the Lariat and the Liger Bomb are not killing Tsunade, but, like, Tsunade just punches things. Mm-hmm. But when she just punches things, Susanoo rib cages and, like, full armor Susanoo shatter, and Madara gets punched in half. And Madara's got decent durability himself.
Well, and I completely understand that. I just think that the more variant of the techniques is, like, he's going to be more able to adapt to what she can do. And it was also shown when they first met in the village when they had their arm wrestling. He is aware of her and he knows what she can do. So I think if it comes down into a fight aspect, I could see the Raikage taking a completely different approach to fighting her than he would, like, Sasuke, of, like, oh, I'm just going to toy with you and just basically beat you down to submission until I kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the whole fight itself would go a lot differently than what you normally see the Raikage fight as.
Right, he'd probably be more like hit and run, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he'd be more tactful. He'd be like guerrilla warfare, basically.
Okay,
he'd get in, hit, get out.
Let me ask you this, just to pick your brain a little bit. Do you think that the Raikage has more endurance than Tsunade does?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. You're not really shown. The only time you're ever shown the limit of both of their endurances
is when they're, like, both almost dead.
Yeah, is when they're literally in the Great Ninja War when they're fighting Madara. Yeah. And Madara's just like, so you want these to use Susanoo or no?
Yeah, no, I get it.
So you can't really tell who's... I think it comes down to an endurance fight, but I personally have to give it to the Raikage.
Okay, that's fair. We're not going to drag this out too much longer. We obviously don't see eye to eye on it. We can see each other's side. We'll leave it to you guys. If you want to leave a comment, go ahead, tell us who you think wins between these two, and you're probably going to roast us for this whole video because it's just being ridiculous and goofy the whole time. So, you know, whatever. We're going to move on, and my next pick in this order is our surprise contestant, Danzo. Now, yours and my next picks are actually swapped again, so you've got Danzo after Gaara, and I've got Gaara after Danzo.
Yeah.
So I think Danzo... first of all, we should explain why Danzo is going to beat everybody below him. And it's for the same reasons that you think he beats Gaara, but I think Gaara has something on him. So Danzo, real quick, first of all, is also cracked. Right?
Like, this dude is broken beyond belief.
Now, he fights Sasuke. And of course, everybody's like, Danzo is probably like the weakest of the 5 Kage. I don't think I've ever heard anybody singing his praises before. And now I hate Danzo, right? He's the most despicable character. Everybody agrees on that. But Danzo is, unfortunately, super strong. Because he goes and he fights Sasuke. And now this Sasuke is the same one who just fight the Raikage. And everybody's probably thinking, but Sasuke was really tired when he started that fight. And that's not true.
I mean,
because... Sasuke himself doesn't even go track Danzo down. Toby sucks them both up. He sucks up Karin and Sasuke, and he tells Karin, heal Sasuke while I go track down Danzo. And so he goes and tracks down Danzo, and he spits Sasuke out, and Sasuke is like full strength again. He's starting that fight pretty fresh. Although, he's now had 4 fights against other Kage to let his hatred get stronger, and now he's stronger and more used to using techniques like the Susanoo and the Amaterasu. And he's at like full chakra again, basically. He's like fresh. And Danzo's been running away. He's also cast a few jutsu. So we can assume pretty safely that they're roughly the same level of fatigue.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Sasuke is like fully recovered.
No, not like fully, right?
But I'd say his chakra's about there, and Danzo's about there on his chakra too.
Yeah, but it's fair to say that Sasuke's pretty fresh coming into this fight. Now this is the same Sasuke who just beat the Raikage in a fight. I know we said it was really close because it was, but Sasuke did at least cause a tie, and if not outright win that fight if Gaara didn't intervene.
See, I would have thought that it would have been a tie.
Whatever. Not really the point, but so this Danzo is going to fight this now a little bit stronger than he was an hour ago, Sasuke. And we look at him, and you think Danzo's not fast enough to keep up with the Raikage, but, like, Sasuke's firing Susanoo arrows at him, something that Kakashi, with a Mangekyo Sharingan, has to use, like, the upper limit of his reaction time in Kamui, one of the fastest jutsu in the whole series, to suck away 1 arrow from the Susanoo. And Danzo gets hit by one, and like Izanagi's it to get out of it. And then Sasuke shoots another one, and he uses wood style to dodge it. And then he shoots another one, and Danzo just like outright dodges it. So like Danzo's pretty damn fast if he's reacting to these things that Hokage level Kakashi. You can debate if Kakashi's Hokage level quite yet, but like the very upper limit of Jonin at least. He like can't react to these. He's like, if I didn't have my Mangekyo Sharingan, I would have died, right? And Danzo is dodging these. It's with some effort. He admits that it's really fast, but he's not getting taken out by these. And he's like basically immune to Genjutsu because he can see through it really well. He's got the whole arm full of Izanagi, which we're giving him for this fight. It's not like we're going to say, well, Danzo doesn't have time to unseal his arm because that's just lame.
Yeah, I mean, like this dude, if he knows that he's going into the fight and he knows it's going to be hard, like just look at the Sasuke thing. Mm-hmm. He realized it was going to be a difficult fight, so his immediate first response was he started unsealing his arm. And there's nothing really necessarily stating that his arm ever had to be completely removed from what it was for him to use the Izanagi.
Right, he's just undoing the seal.
I think he did it for the Sasuke fight simply just to be like, hey, yo, look at what I accomplished. Your clan is now in my arm, and you're next. Which, granted, just made Sasuke even angrier, but...
Yeah. So moving on with the point then, we've got this guy who is fighting clearly at a Kage level minimum. Like, he's just fighting at the Kage level. He's the Hokage right now. Nobody likes him, but he is the Hokage. And he's fighting alongside Sasuke. And he thinks he's going to have to fight, air quotes, Madara after this. And so he's actually holding back a little bit of his strength, right? Yeah. So he goes through this whole fight. He almost kills Sasuke several times. And everybody's like, oh, it's because he was shooting with Izanagi. But here's the thing. If he's fighting at the Kage level, it's going to be hard for the other Kage to take him down even once. And he might just let himself get killed because Izanagi has this broken little ability where he just kind of teleports back in wherever he wants, and now he's uninjured and fresh again, except for one Izanagi eye down. And even Karin and Madara and Sasuke, who all have really good sensory abilities, and Karin, you can argue, is the best sensory ninja ever, doesn't know he's there.
Yeah,
and
he gets
several sneak attacks on Sasuke, who Karin shouts for him to avoid, and so he narrowly avoids getting sneak attack killed by Danzo. And now the other Kage aren't gonna have backup in this fight, and so if he uses Izanagi because he got killed by one of their attacks, he's just gonna show up behind them, like the Raikage, for instance, who uses lightning style, and Danzo uses wind style, so he has the element advantage here. And he's just gonna sneak up behind them and fucking murder them, just like he almost did to Sasuke 4 times.
Mm. And they're not gonna... If they're not gonna have the backup or anyone to watch their back, it's basically death. They're done.
Right. And so that's why we've got Danzo up at least this high. And now I have him below Gaara. I'd like to hear why you have him above Gaara real quick before we move on to Gaara.
The reason why I have him above Gaara is simply just for the fact is, one, this dude was the founding member of Root, right? So, he's really, really skilled. He also, it was kind of orchestrated in a way, and kind of hinted at that he had a hand in connecting with Orochimaru and setting up that coup, because he wanted to take the Hokage spot from Hiruzen. He did not believe that Hiruzen was qualified for it. So he created Root, which was basically the opposite of the Anbu, his own personal Anbu Black Ops squad. And it was hinted at in the show that he basically reached out to Orochimaru and was like, hey, yo, if you do this, I'll basically stop hunting you.
Right.
When I take over. So he already knew roughly about Gaara granted, this is real, real young, but he knew that Gaara's abilities and everything like that with the sand. So, in him being a Root member, he also trained, him being the founder of Root, he trained all of them basically to be aware and always think, even if it is your ally, how can I kill them?
Mm-hmm.
So, Danzo was already thinking ahead of everybody that was involved in that plan of, if this goes sideways, how do I kill him?
Right. He was always thinking about double-crossing everybody he worked with.
Yeah.
Except for, the elders of the Leaf Village, because he, his one goal, to his credit, is to save the Leaf.
Yes. So I think that even after that, he would have kept an eye on Gaara about, kind of what was going on. And obviously, Gaara rose up through the ranks, became Kage Kage. His feats were well-known. So I believe Danzo would have kept an extra close eye on them. Plus, if he was already thinking about becoming the Hokage, he would have been looking at all the other Kages and trying to strategize about how do I kill him.
That's fair. I think it's fair to say that Danzo probably has a good amount of intel on all the other Kage, and especially Gaara, because Gaara's really famous. Not only was he used as a weapon to attack the Leaf Village, but also the whole Sand Village was really afraid of him for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he's now the Kage Kage, so he's a global figure. People should know a good deal about his abilities.
Yeah, so I believe that Danzo would have basically had a strategy to deal with it. That, and everybody always discredits his summoning technique, which honestly...
the Baku is crazy. The Baku is absolutely crazy.
Yes, it was taken out by a fireball. But at the same time, that is...
Gaara doesn't have fireballs.
Yes, Gaara can't use fire. And the Baki is basically known to when it's summoned and activated, that beast is known to just suck up and devour everything.
Right.
Sasuke was literally getting pulled into it to be... And that's when he launched the fireball. So I believe Danzo would basically Gaara would start flying or doing whatever he wanted, and he'd just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to summon the Baki. You're going to try and fly away, I'm going to suck you back down to make it in range for either my jutsus to hit you or for me to get at you.
Right.
So that's why I'd put Danzo at second.
Okay, so moving on to my second place, we do have Gaara, like we've already said a few times. Now, I disagree with Monsta here. I do think, actually, that Gaara would beat Danzo. And now, look, I get where he's coming from, too. And most of you probably don't even agree with having Danzo up this high on the list, so maybe I'm arguing in an uphill battle here. But Gaara versus Danzo comes down to this. Like I already said, Danzo can, at the very bare minimum, kind of sneak attack people with the Izanagi. But as you're gonna find with my opinions on my highest ranked two Kage on how they would fight against each other, they have abilities that the other Kage don't. And that's the ability to fly. And if you can fly and you're smart about it, nobody can hit you. Now, Danzo versus Gaara is still a good fight because he has some long-range attacks, which Tsunade, Mei, and the Raikage really don't. But I think that Gaara's ultimate defense and like the automatic defense of his sand and his sand armor probably can stop pretty much all of the long-range attacks that Danzo can dish out. I mean, like, even the wind-enhanced shuriken, how much of Gaara's sand is going through? And even if not, it's not like Gaara can't dodge anything, you know? It's like he tends not to because he doesn't have to, but it's not like he can't. And his sand is really fast because his sand caught Datara while flying through the sand village, and his sand was able to intercept an attack from the Raikage, who it's fair to say probably wasn't moving full speed when he was trying to kick Sasuke's head in. But, like, if it's fast enough to intercept something from the Raikage, it's got to be pretty fast, which... tangent here also means that the other members of Taka are also pretty damn fast, but not really the point. So Gaara's sand should be able to defend against Danzo's attacks, I think. Now, how does he kill Danzo? Well, I think it's pretty simple. If he can't just outright catch him with like a sand coffin or something through like a sand shower and crush him to death, which he has the stamina to do at least 10 times, which is how many Izanagi's Danzo has.
Yeah.
Right? So I think he's got the stamina to kill him enough times, granted he catches him in the attacks. And it's like, okay, well maybe Danzo uses the Baku, but I think Gaara can probably just get himself out of range of the Baku and then crush it to death. And granted the environment hinders or helps him a lot too. Because if he has a sandy environment like the desert, or maybe he just has time to create like an ocean of sand like he did against Kimimaru, well then guess what? Gaara can just use Sand Tsunami, and at that point, I don't think there's anything Danzo can do to avoid getting just absolutely squashed. And if he uses Sand Tsunami, then the whole battlefield is sand, and now he's got even more of an advantage, right?
I think the only thing that Danzo could really do in that situation is he'd have, if he didn't already use it and it wasn't already, like, destroyed.
Hang on to this for a second. Hang on to this for a second, because we will mention this, but I just want to finish explaining my piece here.
Yeah, you're good.
So Gaara, I think, can catch Danzo. He's fast enough. He's definitely got the attack power to kill him. He definitely has the stamina to outlast Danzo's Izanagi. And he can probably defend against everything Danzo can send out, right? Now, if he's fighting really smart about it, which Gaara is a pretty crafty fighter, the only time we ever see him fight really stupid is against Sasuke and Naruto in the Chunin exams, when he hasn't slept in 12 years, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he hasn't slept in, like, almost 12 years at this point, because he's 12 years old, and he's never been allowed to sleep, because he's got the fucking demon in him. Well, guess what? He doesn't have that in him anymore, and his perspective's been changed by Naruto, and he's more mature, and he's a Kage, so he's got more training and more advice from, like, higher up, so he's gonna fight smart in this fight. He can just stay out of range of all of Danzo's attacks, which includes the Baku, which is the biggest threat that we see outside of this next thing that Monsta is dying to bring up, which is...
Well, my aspect was actually going to be the Baku, but for the Sand Tsunami counterplay, because it is known to suck up everything, so Gaara uses Sand Tsunami, he summons Baku.
Yeah, but then it gets behind the Baku and crushes it.
Yeah, like... But even at the same time, one thing that a lot of people also overlooked, that I personally, even in the ranking, I overlooked, was the fact that Danzo's aware of the Izanagi, which also means he is aware of Izunami.
No. There's no way he knows about Izunami, and there's no way he'd be able to set it up. I thought you were going to talk about something else. This is crazy.
Well, my aspect is if he knows about Izunagi, and he knows about Izunami, and on top of that, and this is what I think that you're talking about when you're saying that I was dying to say, is in his left eye, I believe, like the only Sharingan he actually implanted into his skull, he holds the strongest Genjutsu known to anyone. That's even supposedly more potent than the Tsukunomi. He holds the Koto Amatsu Kami.
Now, I wanna pipe up and say we're just gonna crush the discussion about Izanami, because first of all, neither of us even like that jutsu.
Yeah,
it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It came out of absolutely nowhere, and the only person who ever talks about it is Itachi. I don't think even Madara talks about it, and Madara knows like everything about the Uchiha. So I think it's fair to say Danzo probably doesn't know about that. And even if he does, I don't want to talk about it. So
yeah, I don't see him setting it up either way. But
yeah, he wouldn't get it set up. So we're just gonna skip that
possibility.
Now, Kodo Matsukami is something a little spicy here because some people think it's really strong, some people think it's really weak, and now others, like for instance, Swag Kage goes on his discussions, which I actually really like how he looks at it. That it's probably two different Izanagi Kodo Matsukami in each of Shisui's eyes, right?
Yeah.
Because the one that Itachi uses in the Crow is no doubt super strong because Itachi knows he's under the influence of it. And he literally can't even stop while he's running through the forest to talk to Sasuke because his body is just like under control. Now, on the other hand, you've got Danzo, who we're talking about right now, who used the Kodo Matsukami on someone who's not even a shinobi, on the samurai guy. What's his name? Mifune, thank you. He uses it on Mifune, who's not even a shinobi, so you can argue he might not even have very much chakra or any control over his chakra, right? He gets caught using it by someone with the Byakugan, and the absolute instant that they say, hey Mifune, you're under a genjutsu, he just snaps out of it and stops behaving the way Danzo wants him to. So you can argue that the Kodo Matsukami in Danzo's left eye is really, really weak. Because if they realize they're under it, then it's broken and you can't use it again for a whole nother day.
Well, you could also account that too as well. Like I don't want to discredit you completely on that or anything, but you could also basically do it as Danzo was like, oh shit, I'm caught. I'm gonna stop using this real quick.
And that's fair. You could argue that too, because Kodo Matsukami is one of the most poorly explained jutsu in the whole show. When I found out about it, I heard, the way I heard it explained to me was I thought at the time, I don't think this anymore, but at the time I thought you could just have a name and a face like the Death Note and be like, they're under my permanent control now. It's not how it works. But that's how poorly explained it was, that I got the idea that you could just have a name and a face anywhere on the world and control that person.
Literally all you were ever told about the Kodo Matsukami was that you didn't have to look at them in the eye. You didn't have to do any of the basic regular stuff of genjutsu for the Uchiha. Just basically the way that I heard it anyway, even through the show's explanation, like you were saying, was that if you know of them, you can hit them.
So, I don't know. To be fair, if you're generous towards Kodo Matsukami, which I'm not, you'll hear me in the future ripping on this jutsu, because I hate it. I think it's dumb. But if you're really generous to it, yeah, you could say that Danzo could use that on pretty much any of the Kage and steal the fight because they'd stop fighting him or whatever.
Or he just kill yourself and then they'd be like, okay.
Yeah, and they'd go jump off the bridge in the Land of Iron or something.
Yeah, something stupid like that.
So I guess if you really want to give it to him, you could even put Danzo at number 1 because of that, but neither of us feel like it's really fair to do that. And so I'm stopping him at Gaara, and Monsta is putting him above Gaara.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing with Danzo, before we move on and start talking more about Gaara and Onoki, who, spoiler alert, is both of our number 1, if you hadn't picked up on that already over the course of this almost 40-minute video at this point. Danzo does have the reverse tetragram seal that's programmed to go off when he dies. Now, to be fair, if the Raikage Tsunade or Mei manage to kill him, I don't think they're going to know what this is. Maybe they will recognize it and they could get away. But if that goes off, I can see it catching anybody, including Onoki, in it. So, Danzo does have some stupid hacks that could just win. In the case of this jutsu, it at least causes a tie, right? Well, okay. So if it goes off, it explodes, and it almost eats up the whole bridge, half the whole bridge that they're on, which is pretty huge. And if it catches Gaara or someone, they're gonna get sucked into it. They're gonna die. So at worst case scenario, Danzo can cause a tie in a lot of these cases, but that's kind of a coin flip if it hits or not.
My thing with the tetragrammic seal is that even that technique was very poorly explained.
It was.
Because you see him...
I feel like that one didn't have to be explained as thoroughly because it's don't get hit by it and you're good.
Don't get hit by it. But my only thing was the activation cost, because you see when it's activated. I mean, granted, Madara at the time told Sasuke, get away or you're gonna die because of the seal. But during this, everyone always says that it's upon his death, which he's walking away from Sasuke and running away, and then Sasuke hits him with something, and then you see him kind of like remove part of his shirt. So, it's not really said if he has to activate this
I think
technique.
that was kind of just more for dramatic. I think it is. I could be wrong. We should probably explain at this point, if you're still around 40 minutes into this video, that we don't actually spend all day sitting around researching Naruto like some of these other guys do. We have day jobs. We have lives. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, we know it really well, but we're not going to go through and look at like, okay, well, on page number 73 of Naruto volume 61, this exact panel, we're not going to do that. We're not going through it with a fine-tooth microscope.
But yeah, like,
so like I think it is explained in there somewhere that he actually had it programmed to go off at the moment of his death. I think him revealing it is just kind of for dramatic effect, because like if it you don't see the curse mark appear under his clothing and he just explodes, then everybody in the audience is gonna be like, what the heck just happened? So like I feel like fair. Kishimoto had to do that.
But then my other aspect is like, you could make him 400 times more broken with that aspect, because if he would have just held off for a little bit longer, he could have caught Sasuke with the tetragrammic seal, and it was shown that the Izanagi basically just rewrites.
No, but I think it was sent to go off when he like actually died, which I think you can't use Izanagi and that at the same time.
I mean, like,
I think it's fair to say that he can't. But
I'm saying, like, if he could though, like, that dude would sweep everybody. Like, I don't care, power scaling, nothing. I think granted, I don't think he'd be able to catch like War Arc Madara or like Jubito with it.
Oh no, for sure.
But
okay, so like you see though,
everybody else he just sweep.
You see though that like even characters like Obito with the orange mask and Sasuke, who just got done fighting Danzo, who's a Kage level opponent, which we've already explained, like they even have abilities, and like even just running away, they can get away in time. So I don't think for sure it's not like a guaranteed win, but it is possible if they don't know what's happening that it can catch them. That's all I was saying. Like if they don't know, then they're gonna get caught, and then it's a tie. It's kind of a nothing burger, I guess, but I mean,
it is just one of the abilities. Something to throw in there.
It's stupid. A lot of Danzo's stuff is stupid, but I think we're good. I think we're good to move on.
Yeah, I'm good.
So we've already kind of explained Gaara. Like I said, Gaara can fly, so nobody can really touch him, except for Onoki, and he can trap anybody in like a sand tsunami. Because like even the Raikage is not avoiding a sand tsunami, and then like once they're stuck, they're stuck. He's just gonna crush them to death. I think we can. You agree? Same reasons.
Yeah, basically.
We can pretty much just move on to Onoki, who is our number one pick for the strongest of the 5 Kage.
And granted, I want to say this for just be on record on my opinion. The only reason this man is number one is simply because of his Keke Toda. Like, the particle style is the most...
Keke Toda and being able to fly.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, the particle style is the most broken thing in existence. Like, everyone always wants to say how bad the Sharingan is with being broken, or, I mean, I know that there's some Hyuga fans out there that are just like, yeah, but the Byakugan, and then you want to get into, like, Tenseigan. No, like, all of that stuff I can explain away. It can be power scaled, everything like that. But particle style, on the other hand, is just basically, like, I feel like it was a way that Kishimoto was just like, well, this man is, like, 120 and still like a Kage.
Yeah, like he's still one of the strongest people in the whole world. How can we break him?
And then so they just gave him, how about we just give him the ability to create a box?
Well, and this is the time in the series that Kishimoto is still focusing on things like elemental releases and stuff like that. Yeah. So like you can tell it was kind of in the forefront of his mind on like how do I make an interesting technique too, which is like I think he nailed it on the Keke Tota. The particle style is one of the coolest jutsu in the whole series. But like, personally, I might put it in my maybe top 5, if not probably definitely in my top 10. I love the particle style.
Yeah, particle style is awesome, but my only thing is the way that I look at particle style is it's basically just like, I don't like you, I'm hitting the delete button.
No, but you're totally right though, because Onoki, first of all, once like I explained all the way back when we were talking with Tsunade, all of these guys should be at least somewhat relative in speed. And with Onoki's ability to just like fire like a laser beam particle style and like sweep it around, I think he's gonna be fast enough to hit anybody with it. And the crazy thing about the particle style is it doesn't matter what your defense is, it just deletes you. Unless you're someone like Pain or like Madara with a Rinnegan and you can absorb the shit. But guess what? None of these 6 guys have.
Or if you have the Kamui, like just
yeah.
Oh no, I'm trapped.
So unless you've got a space-time ninjutsu or the ability to absorb chakra, you can't counter it aside from just dodging it. And guess what? None of the other 5 Kage have a space-time ninjutsu or the ability to absorb the chakra.
Yeah,
so which is crazy. And
delete button.
I wish we could make this section a little bit longer and talk about how it's all these interesting fights against like the Raikage and Tsunade, about how Onoki like outmaneuvers them or whatever. But really, it really is as simple as if we weren't plugging controllers into all these guys before. Like, we're just gonna plug a controller into Onoki's ass and we're just gonna tell him fly up in the air. Like, he just flies in the air and he sweeps with the particle style. And honestly, I know it's super disingenuous. And if I were like looking at this from a narrative perspective, which we're not today, but if we were looking at it from a narrative perspective, I would never claim we could pull this off. But if we're just looking at their abilities, it's probably fair to say that Onoki could take on the other 5 Kage all at once.
Yeah, straight up.
With like 1 or 2 attacks even, because like he's like if they're off guard, especially like if they're not knowing what's coming, like he just sweeps Raikage, Tsunade, Mei all dead. He sweeps back the other way. There's Gaara and Danzo, and he just flies home and he's like, oh man, my back hurts.
Well, like I said, I think at most this man has to use 2 attacks because Gaara would fly away to dodge it.
Yeah, right. And so like Gaara's the only interesting match here because Gaara's fast enough to keep up with him and he can fly. Mm-hmm. But like Gaara, he's fast enough. Onoki's fast enough to like outspeed Deidara, who Gaara was having a hard time keeping up with. So I think it's like if they're not like pretty much closely matched in speed, I think it's easier to give the edge to Onoki. And so he's fast enough to dodge all of Gaara's attacks. And even if he gets caught in Gaara's attacks, he just fires the particle style. And boom, Gaara, like, it goes through Gaara's sand and it eats through it, and like Gaara just dies. And some of you guys may be thinking, hopefully not, but you may be thinking that the sand is strong enough to block the particle style, but that shit ate through the Susanoo, like the perfect Susanoo of Madara.
Yeah.
And it's not like this is Onoki with extra training time or whatever. He was like fatigued when he did that because Madara just wanted to show off that he had Hashirama's face on him, and so he let it get through. Like, once again, I wish we could make this more intricate and interesting, but we really can't. Onoki's just gonna curb stomp everybody.
Literally, it's just Inoki is like looking at your keyboard on your computer and just basically hitting the delete button on something. That is Inoki. Like 100%, he's just the delete button.
He's control Xing the other Kage. Like, yeah. Cut them out of here. Get gone. So. Thank you to everybody who stuck around through this absolute mess of a rant of a video. It was super fun to make. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to it. Once again, I'll reiterate, we weren't being super honest to like narrative things and all of that when we were considering this. We're just kind of looking at their abilities and putting them on a roughly even like power playing field.
Yeah.
And this is what we came up with. We were once again just having fun. So thanks for everybody sticking around. Go ahead, leave a comment, tell us how we're wrong, and roast the shit out of us. We can take it. We're both grown men. And till next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.